Hi everyone, welcome back to the Puttering Penman. Today I'm going to be doing a review of a vintage Parker 51 Vacumatic. So this is my first vintage fountain pen. I've been collecting and using fountain pens for over 10 years now. They were all modern pens, but I sort of got interested in vintage pens because of this pen. I've had this since 2018. It is a modern Pelican M120 based on a student pen from, I believe, the 1950s. And so it has a lot of the similar design characteristics of that pen. It's a little different. I think this one's based a little bit more on the modern M200. But basically this pen has sort of, the design of it is sort of based on when people used pens every day for carrying around in their pocket, writing long notes, writing short notes, things like that. And it's really well designed for sort of all sorts of everyday utilities like that. So I was like, I would like to try a vintage pen. So Chicago Pen Show came up. I went to it. I picked up this pen from FPH Vintage, who was the previous owner of Fountain Pen Hospital and seems to still be going to pen shows to sell vintage pens that he's restoring. And I am thrilled with this pen. Just a little spoiler alert, I have not been this excited about a pen since I bought my Pilot Custom 823 in 2018, and that was my favorite pen for years and years. So let's get into a little bit more of the review. So straight to the chase, I purchased this pen for $125. That seems to be within reason of a normal Parker 51 price. Mine did seem to be a little bit more discounted because it's got, some scuffs on the cap here, things like that. The price can also be based on how much tipping is left. This one has enough tipping for, writing for several more years. Mine is a gold-filled cap, which I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I think it means it's a gold coating. It's not solid gold. It says, here on the back of the cap, 1/10, 14 karat gold filled, made in USA, and then Parker on the other side. It has a sort of grayish jewel at the top. The body color is what I believe is cedar blue. To me, it's definitely blue, but it leans a slightly teal. In certain lights it looks very blue. But yeah, this is the blue color. I know that this pen, from the markings here, this pen was made in Q2 of 1948. Because there's a little marking right there. Basically, for Vacumatics made in the 1940s, they had the last digit of the year, and then if it was in the fourth quarter, basically if it was made in Q1, there'd be 1 dot. If it was made in Q2, there'd be 2 dots. If it was made in Q3, it'd be a 3rd dot there, and if it was made in Q4, there'd be a 4th dot at the top. So mine has 2 dots, so it was made in Q2 of 1948. You can tell that there's a hooded nib. This is a gold nib. Even though the cap is gold, there is a steel ring. I think it's steel anyway, but it's steel colored ring here. It would be nice if that was gold to just match the aesthetic of the pen, but I bet there are practical reasons why they couldn't, since this is there's sort of a metal mechanism in there that clips onto there, and so if it was gold, the gold probably just would have worn off over time. This is a Vacumatic, which means you push down this plunger while holding the pen and ink, and you push it down several times, maybe between 5 and 10, and it sucks up ink that way. Overall, this is my first Vacumatic pen. I think the filling mechanism is easy to fill. It is harder to clean. You just basically flush it out in water, but I don't think you'll ever really get it completely clean. So it is a good idea to use generally safe, easy to clean washable inks in it. One thing I want to note about the hooded nib, I've had the Lamy 2000, but this is my second hooded nib. One of the benefits of a hooded nib is that it stays wet longer than, say, a nib that's not hooded, and so the feed and nib are exposed to more air. I did a little experiment, I was able to keep this pen wet for about like 10 minutes of uncapped use, which makes this a good pen for like work meetings where like you might just have the pen sitting uncapped for a little while. It didn't completely dry out after 10 minutes, and I didn't feel like, experimenting longer than 10 minutes, but that's pretty nice. This pen is comfortable both posted and unposted. It's very easy to cap and uncap. The ergonomics of this pen are incredible. Like I was saying with this Pelikan M120, based on a 1950s design, you can tell that this Parker 51 was designed to be like carried around with you, used both at a desk or writing quick notes, writing long letters and memos. It's just a very well-built, well-thought-out pen. It's 75 years old. It's still writing. You can get parts to repair them yourself. There are, lots of pen doctors and like nibmeisters and vintage pen restorers who can help you out if you need help. So yeah, one day I am looking forward to trying to, restore a pen on my own. And so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I will put the stats of the length and width and weight of this pen on the screen. So let's do a size comparison now. Here it is compared to Pilot Metropolitan and Lamy Safari. It's just about in between those two pens. Unposted, it's just a little bit longer than the Metropolitan and a little bit shorter than the Safari. And it's about the same length as the Pilot Metropolitan posted. This is an unknown nib size. Parker 51s tended to run a bit fine. I don't know what nib size this is. I think it's probably a fine, but clearly this pen has been well used because the tipping is definitely not factory tipping. It's clearly been worn down a bit from somebody who has used it over many, many years. So yeah, I think it's a fine, but I don't know for sure. Ink is Waterman Mysterious Blue. And the paper is a Rhodia A5 pad. So this pen does run a bit dry, even with the wetter Waterman ink in it. But it is a really nice writer. I tend to like finer nibs. I also tend to like drier nibs. So this is right up my alley. The best thing about this pen is just how comfortable it is to carry with me and use on the go, and then also very comfortable to sit and write like a page out with. I do carry a fountain pen with me at pretty much all times to use with my pocket notebook, and then I also have been using this pen to journal and write notes, do handwriting practice, and it is overall just absolutely amazing. So I'm very excited I have this pen. It's quickly moved up to be one of my favorites. I don't know if it actually like is the favorite. You can tune into my March Madness style bracket favorites video that I do in March. You can tune into that next year and we'll see how this one does. But yeah, it's definitely a great pen. I really like it. I'm glad I picked it up. There are a couple negatives to this pen though. And one of them is that you don't know what your ink capacity is here. Back in the day, when everybody was using fountain pens, there were bottles of inks in lots of places. You would have had it at your office, probably at home. If you travel to a hotel, the hotel probably had a bottle of ink you could fill from. But anyway, so now these days, bottles of ink aren't everywhere. So if you are using this, you may want to top off before you leave the house. It is hard to clean, like I mentioned before. You're probably never going to get completely clean, so use generally safe inks that wash out easily. And then if you do want to change colors, probably best to use inks that tend to be less reactive with other inks, going from Waterman Serenity to blue to Waterman Intense Black, things like that. And then, like I said, just aesthetically, this metal ring sort of clashes with the gold of the cap. That's just, something that kind of irks me. It might not bother other people. But there are a lot of great things about this pen, too. It's an amazing pen design, very comfortable to hold, very comfortable to write with. I like the nib a lot. It just works very reliably. It's on the finer side and the drier side, which I both like. So it works well on inexpensive copy paper. It works well on fountain pen friendly paper. You're not going to get a whole lot of ink characteristics like shading and sheening from writing with this pen, but it's a practical everyday writer. And then finally, even though you can't see how much ink you have, it does have a good ink capacity. I haven't measured myself, but online, a couple people have been saying that the Vacumatics hold about 1.6 milliliters of ink. So that's a lot than, modern cartridge converter pens, and even on par with a lot of modern piston filling fountain pens. So really great pen. I'm so glad I have it in my collection. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye.